Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 1,209th regular meeting and public hearing of the Livonia City Planning Commission. I wish to inform all interested persons in our audience that for petitions on tonight's agenda, which involve a question of zoning, the Planning Commission will make a recommendation to City Council, and the City Council, after holding their own public hearing, will make the final determination as to whether a petition is approved or denied. The Planning Commission will hold the only public hearing on requests for preliminary plats or vacating petitions. The Commission's recommendation is forwarded to City Council, and the City Council will accept or reject that. If petitions are requesting a waiver of use or a site plan and it is denied tonight, the petitioner will have 10 days in which to appeal the decision in writing to City Council. Resolutions adopted by the City Planning Commission will become effective 7 days after the date of adoption. The Planning Commission and professional staff have reviewed each of these petitions upon their filing. The staff has forwarded the Commission with both approving and denying resolutions, which the Commission may or may not use depending on the outcome of the proceedings tonight. If our Secretary is ready, please call the roll.
Mrs. DeNaro.
Here.
Mr. Bonjero. Here. Mr. Long.
Here.
Mr. Caremagno is here. Chairman Wilshaw.
Is here, and Mr. Ventura is absent. So also with us tonight we have Mark Tormina. We also have Jacob Uhazi from our planning department, and they will be assisting us through the meeting with giving us information about these petitions. For those folks in our audience that have not been to one of our meetings before, what happens is we'll call each of the items that are on our agenda. There's two main items that you're interested in tonight, and then we'll have our planning staff give background information on the item. We'll ask that the petitioner come forward and make their presentation on their petition. Anyone else in the audience who wishes to speak for or against the petition will be given an opportunity to speak after that, and then we'll make our decision, and we'll move on to the next item. So it's pretty straightforward, and we'll prompt everyone along as we go through the meeting so that you know what's going on. We're going to start with our public hearing section of our agenda, and that's going to be item number 1.
Petition 2024-01-02-01 submitted by Sri Shirdi Sai Baba Temple requesting waiver use approval under sections 3.06 and 6.50 of the Livonia zoning ordinance as amended to construct a new religious temple, gazebo, parking lot, and stormwater detention basins on the property 28875 7 Mile Road, located on the northwest quarter of Section 12.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Tormina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, this is a request to construct a new temple at Sri Shirdi Sai Baba, which is located at the southeast corner of 7 Mile Road and Maplewood Avenue, which is approximately midway between Middle Belt and Inkster Roads. This is a zoning map showing that the property is zoned RUF, Rural Urban Farm. The site has roughly 632 feet of frontage along 7 Mile Road and another 415 feet along Maplewood. Total site area is 4.5 acres. The RUF zoning district does treat religious institutions and accessory uses as a waiver use, and is the reason why we are holding this public hearing this evening.
Mark, I hate to interrupt you, but do you need to move your mic?
I apologize.
That way everyone can hear us. Thank you.
This is the site of the former Galilean Baptist Church School, which was constructed in the mid-1950s and then was converted to the Hindu temple in 2008 after fire destroyed the church sanctuary in 2004. Also located on the property are an outbuilding as well as a single-family home, both of which will be removed as part of this petition. Bordering the site to the east and to the south are single-family homes that are zoned RUF and N1 neighborhood. West, across Maplewood, are homes that are located on RUF zone properties, as well as a C1 local business zone property. And then across 7 Mile to the north are properties that are zoned RUF and C1. In addition to the 4.5 acre parcel that the petitioner owns, they also have 2 single-family homes which are zoned RUF. These are located immediately to the south of the site along Maplewood Avenue. And these houses will remain. The site plan shows the new temple, located in the southwest part of the site. The building setbacks are 232 feet from 7 Mile Road and 92 feet from Maplewood. Access would be provided by 3 driveways, 2 which are along 7 Mile Road and 1 on Maplewood. 2 of these driveways currently exist, the westerly drive on 7 Mile Road and the one on Maplewood. So the easterly drive on 7 Mile would be a new driveway into the site. The temple's main entrance is on the east side of the building. There's a porte cochere adjacent to covered steps which lead to the doors. The main level of the structure is roughly 3 feet above the surrounding ground elevation. Looking at the architecture, the building is characteristic of a traditional Hindu temple. It includes several ornate features, archways, expansive overhangs, and towers. The materials include burnished blocks, brick veneers, fiberglass, and ephes. The architect is here this evening, and he'll be able to describe this in greater detail. There are, as you will see from the elevation drawings and from the renderings we'll show in a few minutes, there are several domes that are on the building. These are fiberglass domes. The tallest is identified as type 1, which is located on the roof at the west end of the building above the idol room. So the main dome located here is closest to Maplewood Avenue. This structure would have an overall height of 76 feet 7 inches. On either side of the main dome are 2 domes labeled as type 2 domes that measure 50 feet 4 inches in height. Type 2 domes are also shown on the east end of the building. So these secondary domes are located here. This is again on the east side of the building. And just to reference the plan, this is the porte cochere that I mentioned. These are the steps leading to the main entrance into the temple, which again is on the east side. You can see the type 2 dome directly above that entryway. And then there's a type 2 dome right here. It's in the foreground with the type 1, the largest of the domes, located here. And then there's another type 2 dome equal to this on the opposite side. There are type 3 and type 4 rooftop domes with varying heights of 32.5 feet and 46.5 feet, which are located around the perimeter of the building. So you'll see several other structures, and we'll show you a flyover that illustrates this quite well. But these type 3 and type 4 domes, there's some slight variations between the various domes. These are, I think, are the type 3. This is the type 4. These are located not only on the east side of the building, but also on the south, the north, and the west sides. Other features on the building, as you can see, are the parapets. These are roughly at a height of 23 to 30 feet. And then the screening for the rooftop units, which is shown here, reaches a height of roughly 35 feet. It's important to note that churches, temples, and similar religious and institutional structures are effectively exempt from the height restrictions of the zoning code. There is a gazebo also shown. This is about 22 feet east of the porte cochere, or the drop-off area for vehicles. This gazebo, as you can see here, also contains a dome. That dome reaches an overall height of roughly 45 feet. Looking at the parking of the site, the requirement is one space for every 3 seats in the main assembly unit, which on these plans is identified as the prayer hall. This translates to about 225 required parking spaces. The site plan shows 303 parking spaces, 78 more than what the ordinance requires. For landscaping, along 7 Mile Road, section 10.03 of the ordinance requires 14 full-size trees, 6 ornamental trees, and 112 shrubs. And then along Maplewood, it requires 10 full-size trees, 4 ornamental trees, and 77 shrubs. Additionally, the ordinance requires no fewer than 25 trees within the parking lot and 10-foot wide perimeter green space buffers along the side of the building, or side of the properties, with 1 tree every 30 feet. Reviewing the landscape plan, it does comply with these ordinance standards. Another major feature of the site is the stormwater management. Storm runoff would be directed into an open detention system, which is located in the southeast corner of the property. So again, to familiarize with yourselves with the site plan, this is 7 Mile Road up here on the top of the drawing, Maplewood on the left-hand side, the proposed temple located here in what is the southwest portion of the site adjacent to Maplewood. the gazebo located here, and then the stormwater detention system located here in the southeast corner. The system consists of 2 basins, a forebay, which is for the initial treatment of the runoff, and then a main holding pond. The easterly forebay would have a 2-foot permanent water elevation, and no permanent water elevation is specified in the main basin. Trees and other natural vegetation will remain as a border on the east and south sides of the basins, and then on the west side of the basins, the landscape plan proposes additional plantings in the form of evergreen trees. A photometric plan was provided with the documentation. It provides all the information needed for site lighting. The proposed average illumination for the parking lot is 2.03 foot candles. This does exceed the ordinance restriction of 1 foot candle as an average across the parking lot, and we are requesting that that plan be adjusted to comply. There's a single dumpster enclosure shown in the southwest corner of the parking lot. And then lastly, I'll just go over the floor plan very basically, very generally. It shows, again, the main entrance, which is on the east side of the building. These are the steps leading to the main entrance. There's a large lobby area, and adjacent to that is a front office. There are restrooms, a coat room, an elevator, a meditation room, as well as a bookstore. And then the main room is the prayer hall, which is about 4,970 square feet. This is located, as you can see, mostly in the center of the building. And then next to the prayer room is the idol room, which is located here, which is about 1,768 square feet. There's a continuous hallway that wraps around the main prayer hall and idol room. This hallway provides access to several other rooms. And then there's a lower level to the structure that includes a multi-purpose room, utility rooms, as well as several classrooms and kitchen facilities, as well as locker rooms. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to read out the correspondence on this item.
Yes, please.
The first item is dated February 1st. It's from our engineering division, and it reads, the subject parcel is assigned the address of 288757 Mile Road. Should additional addresses be needed, the owner will need to contact this department once permitting has been completed. There appears to be some issues with the legal description submitted with the drawings. It appears as if parcel 2 has incorrect bearings listed as compared to the topographical survey, and both parcels 1 and 2 are using the incorrect sidewall number. The owner should provide one combined legal description for the entire parcel that will be subject to the waiver use, such as the one that is currently shown by the assessment department. Number 3, the existing parcel is currently serviced by public sanitary sewer and water main, as well as private storm sewer. The submitted drawings indicate that new services will be installed for the proposed structures, which will be reviewed during the permit submittal process. Based on the submitted drawings, we do not believe that there will be any negative impacts to the existing systems. Number 4, the drawings indicate the intention to provide stormwater detention on site, which will be required per the Wayne County Stormwater Ordinance. Stormwater calculations will be reviewed during the permitting process. And number 5, any disturbances within the 7 Mile Road right-of-way will require permits through the Wayne County Department of Public Service, including drive approach and sidewalk removals and replacements. That letter is signed by David Lear, Assistant City Engineer. Next, we have a letter from the Department of Public Safety, Traffic Bureau, or the Division of Police. They indicate that they have no objections to the proposal as submitted, and that letter is signed by Paul Walters, Sergeant of the Traffic Bureau. A letter from the Inspection Department dated February 13th that reads, pursuant to your request, the above referenced petition has been reviewed, and the following is noted. Number 1, the parking lot shall be replaced and striped as necessary. Parking spaces shall be 10 feet wide by 20 feet deep and double striped. Number 2, barrier-free parking spaces shall be sized and marked in accordance with the Michigan Building Code. 3, van-accessible barrier-free parking spaces must be provided and shall be sized, signed, and marked in accordance with the Michigan Barrier-Free Code. And 4, the light fixture shall not exceed 20 feet in height, measured from the finished grade to the top of the fixture. This department has no further objections to this petition, and that letter is signed by Jerome Hanna, Director of Inspection. Next, we have a letter of no objection coming from the Department of Finance, signed by Connie Compula, Chief Accountant. Next, we have an email correspondence from the City Treasurer, Susan Nash, indicating that all taxes are current. And then we received an email correspondence from a Mr. Mike Hawkins, who indicates that he is the owner of the home at 18921 Maplewood. I am requesting that the entrance on Maplewood be removed and have them enter from 7 Mile. When they have events, our street sometimes is not accessible because they have cars lined up on our street on both sides. And again, that is an email from Mr. Mike Hawkins. Next, we have a letter from the fire department, actually 2 items of correspondence from the fire department, one addressing that letter from Mr. Hawkins. But first, their first letter indicates that they have no objection to the proposal with the following stipulations. Number 1, the subject buildings are to be provided with an automatic sprinkler system, and on-site hydrants shall be located 50 feet to 100 feet from the fire department connection. Number 2, fire department access roads shall be designed and maintained to support the imposed loads of fire apparatus and provide an adequate all-weather driving surface. 3, Chapter 18 and other applicable codes shall be followed for required fire hydrant and water supply. 4, full fire alarm system shall be installed. And 5, code regarding installation locations with proximity to buildings and other parked vehicles of EV charging stations shall be provided. A further detailed plan review will take place when this division receives an official plan set. And that letter is signed by Brian Kukla, Fire Marshal. Also from the Fire Marshal, I received a correspondence that reads as follows. At this time, this division wants to maintain the access to and from Maplewood Avenue for the utilization of emergency vehicles. If fencing is installed using a slide gate, a chain and padlock is cost-effective and may be an option for securing the gate. A Knox box and Knox box key can be used to electronically open the motorized secured gate. One of these 2 options is acceptable. Once a formal stamped plan set is submitted and in the possession of this division, a review and feedback will take place. The powers that be may determine that a lift gate would be more appropriate. Then other options to deter the public from driving around the lift gate may come into play and review for better access control. Again, that is from Brian Kukla, the Fire Marshal. And that is the extent of the correspondence, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tormina. Is there any questions for our planning staff? I don't hear any questions for our planning staff. Our petitioner is in the audience. Feel free to come forward to our podium. Good evening, and we'll ask that you start with your name and address for our record.
Good evening. My name is Ghasani Abdenoub from JV and Associates Architect, and thank you for having us here tonight. I think we have a big crowd here. Everybody's excited of getting some site plan approval. We've been working on this project for a while, and everybody's excited to have the new building built. I think Mark did a great presentation. I'm going to go through some of the items we talked about last time in the study session, that some recommendation you've been requesting, and we discussed it with the board, and we're going to go through it. The first item was the potential land banking, because we said we have little extra parking, and the board was okay to land bank 50 cars on the east side of the property. And actually, we have Alan here from the Wacom Frost. He already did a sketch, and I do have a little sketch with me. If you like, I can pass it by. The area depth is 64 feet. It takes 2 lanes, and it takes 50 cars. And so we can land bank 50 cars from that project.
Okay.
The other item is the masonry item on the elevation. Mark, can you go to the elevation sheet? Not the rendering, the elevation.
Yeah, go back to previous.
Yeah, it will come back, yeah. Yeah, this one. You see all where the dark colors are in this elevation? All this material is actually masonry. It's a brick, limestone, and block. So most of the building from the bottom, excluding the windows, on the details on the windows, that they're going to be fiberglass. So mainly the one-story building is mainly masonry material. The only materials that we're not sure yet, we're working on it, where the arches are, because it's very hard to put masonry. It's these big arches. So we're thinking to add, first, it's going to be budgetary issues. The first idea came EFS, And we're talking with this company in New Jersey that potential we might use fiberglass in these details. They're going to see if they can create the panel for us, because we're working with them in the domes. All the domes are going to be fiberglass material, very sturdy, connected to the building. I think it's going to be maybe open. We have some details to keep it open at the bottom. The water goes through the roof with no interruption. But all the domes are going to be fiberglass. The masonry is going to be on the first floor, excluding the windows and the details. And the columns will be all fiberglass. So this item, I mean, we talked to you, we listened, and we agreed that it's maintenance-free. We don't want to have issues with buildings with a lot of EFS on the main level because it can be broken and it needs a lot of maintenance. More information to the site lighting. Actually, we did, after the meeting last week, we sent the drawings to Gasser-Busch, and we did, actually they sent it to us this afternoon. We changed it to 1.1 foot candle to meet the requirement of the code. And definitely we're going to be submitting it to the building and the planning department for approval, but we will meet the code on that, this one. So we didn't have any issues with that. Restriction access from Maplewood Street, we discussed it. We do agree, I mean, with the fire marshal. We like to keep it, but we already showed a gate. We can show a gate there. It's only usable for emergency with the fire department. I think the board decided that we can use 7 Mile for access, but we like to have that entrance for in case of an emergency. And actually that was a recommendation by the fire department. So, removal of the existing structure. The existing structure, now we're keeping it till the point that everything is approved. First, we're working on phases with when we start construction. We're gonna the first floor, the main level, and after that, we're gonna go to the basement. Once we finish all the basement, and after that, I think you should give us some time between 2 years to 5 years to, eventually the building is going down, but we wanna make sure that we can use it up to a level that we can have the whole service done in the main building. I don't know if there's any other issues. That was the main issues that we discussed last time. We're comfortable with it. We like to do the project, and we're very happy to be here tonight to hear any question from you.
Okay, well, thank you for your presentation. Let's see if we have any questions for you. Is there any?
Yeah, the rendering, you can see in part of the rendering, we start fixing it. We're still working on the rendering. You can see the brick now where the wall is between the windows.
Oh, okay, you're calling out the masonry material between.
Yeah, the masonry, and there's limestone that is not shown yet. We're still working with the rendering guy to kind of get it going. Mm-hmm. But yes, if you look, even below the windows, all this is masonry and limestone. So we're trying to make it a sturdy building, maintenance-free, and we don't want to have issues with it. So, and definitely we were happy with your recommendation, and we're working on it.
Yeah, we definitely want to see it looking as beautiful as this for a long time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, great. Any questions for our petitioner, Ms. Denaro?
Thank you for that presentation. Can you just tell me a little bit about the timing? If you guys get approved, when would construction start? How long would it take? When would the other building go down once construction's complete?
Once we get approved for site plan approval, I'm sure I'm going to start getting a lot of phone calls from the board. They're going to tell me you're not working fast enough. We need to finish the drawings. So you see, all these guys, I'm going to get a phone call from them. So we're going to make it happen. And we're so excited to finish the building. So we want to get the construction documents, work with the planning department, with the building department, and the civil department, get all our approval done. And during that time, we're going to start working with builders to get some bids. And the minute we get this, I think everybody's ready to start. So it's actually, we've been working on this project for 3-4 years now. Get it going, keep things moving, and now we're very ready to start the project.
Actually, the reverse question to you is, when can we start building?
And for the existing building,
Our veterans here, they're all waiting, they've been waiting for quite some time.
Yes, and for the existing building, like we said, once we build the new building, we're gonna finish the main floor. After that, we're gonna finish the basement. And after this, 2-3 years, and we can demolish the building.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Naro. Is there any other questions for our petitioner? Sure, Mr. Baggio.
Piggybacking on that, I think that's the concern. Like, so is your intent not to get a C of O until the main temple's done and the basement? Or are you gonna try to get a C of O when the main's done and then just start finishing the basement? Because I think that's the concern here, is how many years it's gonna take to get both
No,
levels
we're gonna
done?
keep working, but maybe we're gonna finish the first floor, main floor, so people can start using the prayer area. And after that, we're gonna keep going with the basement.
I think that's where the concern was, about tearing down the other one. You know what
Yes,
I mean? Because it could go for years,
no,
and that's
no.
not what we want. So we were trying to put a time limit to it.
Maybe 3 to 5 years max.
Since we start,
It depends on how fast we can start. My guess is it may take about 2
But
years for
what-
our building.
Okay, what's the idea of, why does the basement need to be done in order to tear the,
because the basement's gonna be used for like after prayer, so it's just multipurpose room. So
okay,
if they didn't finish the basement, they might have to use that building up to that point.
okay.
Let me answer.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
feel free to come to the podium, introduce yourself so we know who you are, and
Sure. Actually, this is Prasad, part of the temple committee. So we have classrooms that we plan to put in the new building in the basement. And if we don't have those finished, our idea is to use our existing building as classrooms. So we have classes on Saturdays and Sundays, and we want to continue those classes. That's the reason.
Okay, I understand. I'm concerned that there's not like a time, some type of time limit so we can be assured that it gets done. You know, instead of having
2 to
these build
5
all
years.
these buildings on the site, we'd like to see that other one come down, obviously, into this beautiful new building, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So maybe we should talk that out. I don't know how to approach that, but.
About 2 to 5 years, that's what our idea is at this point. But definitely not an indefinite time frame.
Okay,
The prepared resolution does address that issue.
2 years after C of O. But that was my point, is it after the basement?
Correct.
After the basement is done,
After
yes.
the basement.
Yeah.
So if this temple takes 5 years to build with the basement, then they've got 2 years
Gotcha.
additional, okay?
I hope it is not going to take 5 years for the building.
Okay. I do have another question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With regard to the land bank of the parking, how many parking spaces do you currently have? Do you know that answer?
In the existing building,
Yeah,
180.
180.
We have 180 usable spots here.
180, okay.
Yes.
So the new one is gonna have 303, but you're saying we'll bank 50.
We're banking
So you have
50,
roughly
yes.
250, because listening to the neighbor, there's concern about the parking on Maple.
That's why I prefer to have some parking inside the building. We made it a little bit more, because if you take the basement, and usually the building is, if people are using the basement, that means nobody's using the main floor. So if you take the basement for square footage, we end up with 234 cars.
Okay,
So, and we have 303 cars, we're banking 50, so we're still gonna be within the 250 cars, we should be fine.
yeah, I would just hate to see this temple be built, there's not enough spots.
Absolutely, and
That
we
wouldn't make
wanna,
any sense.
and we're designing actually the above-ground detention to include that 50 parking in the future if it's needed to make it back to parking. If there's a lot of parking needed, we're already designing the detention pond to take that as a solid ground. So
You're comfortable with the?
Absolutely, yes.
With the 250, okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I want to add one more point. In our existing temple, even though we have 180 parking lots, there is a lot of parking around the existing barn that is not really visible. So our patrons don't tend to use it a lot. So typically, it's about 100, 120 is usable.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
thank you. Mr. Prasad, you probably want to stay up here for some additional questions, just in case there's anything else that you can answer. The two of you are doing a good job together. Thank you. Any other questions for our petitioner?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Caremagna?
Okay, gentlemen, so I understand it's going to take about 5 years to build this building. That's what your expectation is?
The actual building, it's gonna be faster than 5 years. It's gonna be maybe 2 years. 2 years of process for the existing building, for the
What-
new building.
Okay, what does a project like this cost? What's this building going to cost? This project, I guess.
It's about 8 to 10 million. That's the budget at this point.
8 to 10 million,
Hopefully, the cost will remain the same or go down, so about 8 to 10 million.
yeah. A lot of talk about the basement. And I'm assuming you're going to have an elevator in this building?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have an elevator, three set of stairs, and it's a multi-purpose room in the basement, plus some classroom on the side.
Okay, now, I wasn't here for the study session, I couldn't make that, but tell me what happens in this building? How often is it used? Is it 6, 7 days a week? What happens here?
Our primary, I would say, prayer day is Thursday. And
Sorry, is what?
Thursday.
Thursday?
Thursday is our primary day, and rest of the days it's hardly used. We have about maybe 10 to 50 patrons visiting over the duration of the day. But on a Thursday, we have about 500 people, but it starts at 9 o'clock in the morning and goes on till 9 in the evening. It's not that all 500 show up at the same time. So at our peak capacity, usually we serve about, I would say, we accommodate about 50 to 60 at any given point. And we have 5 major events. I think people who live in Livonia, I'm sure you're all aware of those. For those, we have about 1,000 people showing up. But once again, they start around 9 o'clock in the morning and goes on till 9. And during these major events, we have about 200 to 250 showing up at a given time.
Okay, that helps me a little bit. Where is the other nearest temple that people utilize at this point?
Nearest temple is in Novi, and there is one on Grand River Road, Hanuman Temple too. Yeah, it's
One on Grand River in Novi?
Yeah,
Whereabouts?
there is one Taft and Grand River Road. And
Okay, thank you. That's good, thank you. I wasn't here to see the original plan. Mark, this EFS changes that they're suggesting now, is that substantially different than what the original plan was?
Yes. Well, a little confusion. The renderings, the initial elevation plans indicated what would appear to have been brick. The renderings were showing what appeared to be EFS. I think the architect has clarified that it was always intended to be brick. The renderings, for whatever reason, was depicting the EFS, but in fact, more brick will be used than EFS on the sides of the buildings.
We're still working on the rendering, so it's not done, that's why.
Okay,
But
good.
we're gonna have a masonry around the building.
The other question I've got, and I don't know who answers this, but Mark, landscape, we talked about trees, and you said they meet the quantity. How big are these trees? Because of the height of this building and these steeples, how big or how tall are the trees that they're required to put in here? Are they simple 4, 5, 6 footers, or are we requesting a taller tree to kind of offset the height of this facility?
We have not requested anything that is what would normally be required, whether it's 2.5 to 3 inches in caliper at the time of planting. So that's pretty much a standard nursery grade landscape, material that would be planted on the site. Nothing exceeding that I can see. You can see some of the plant schedule here. You'll see 2.5, 6 to 8 feet in height. So some of the material is specified in height, while others are specified in the caliper size of the tree.
Okay. Is there any outdoor music or sound or anything that will be broadcast at this facility?
no.
Okay.
We only have the gazebo area, but just for sitting area, so it's no music, so.
And that'll be only during operating hours? What, operating hours said 9 till 9 or something? You
Yeah,
told me
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. No, nothing late, no.
Okay, and then, how about the towers? What, is there lighting? Is it, does
There
that
is
get
light-
turned down at night? Is it
there is-
on 7 days a week? How does that work?
It turns down after 10 o'clock, and the lighting is kind of very minimum lighting, just to take the shape of the dome. It's nothing major, and we have it in the photometric, so we do meet the requirements for that.
It meets the requirements
Yeah.
as well?
And we're submitting a new photometric, and we meet all the requirements that the city is asking for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Caremagno. Mr. Toromina has on our screen the photometrics showing some of the night lighting elements on those tower elements and so on. So it's to get a feel for what it's going to look like.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out that, and this was one of my initial questions to the architect when we received the plans, and that was whether or not the domes were going to be internally illuminated, if they were translucent, or not, but this is all uplighting. So the roof plan actually shows the lights around the perimeter of each one of these domes, so you can see them here. So these are lights that shine up on the structures, and then again, we've addressed the timing of those lights, either being dimmed or shut off by 10 p.m. That's included in the resolution.
And Mr. Toromina, do you have that in your electronic packet? Do you have the comparison to Father George's
I do.
church that you could show? Just as a comparison of the existing, the highest peak at this facility was 76 feet, as I recall. And you have a sort of a visual comparison of how that would compare to.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have them side by side, but I did take the drawings for the Basilica of St. Mary's, which this architect is very familiar with, and just to illustrate and draw a comparison, the main dome at the Basilica, I think, was 65 feet in height, and that's measured from, I believe, the finished floor elevation or the main level of the sanctuary. So that would be 65 feet measured basically from this point to the top of the dome. Of course, you have the crucifix above that I think reaches even taller height. Then the bell tower is taller than that. That's about 76 feet. Now, what we didn't, again, that's measured from the grade over here. This grade does drop considerably, so you have to add almost 10 to 15 feet. So they're very comparative in terms of general height. These structure, the bell tower in particular, is even taller when you consider it from the lowest grade on the north side of that structure.
Okay, I think that's good information for us to be aware of and consider as we look at this property as a comparison. Is there any other questions, Mr. Caremagno?
I do have another question. The current bus garage, do you utilize that as a bus garage, or is that an old bus garage from the
It's going to be demolished.
prior church?
Currently, we just use it as storage, and it's going to be demolished as
Okay.
soon as we start this project.
And with the new building, you won't need
No,
a
we don't
pole
need
barn
anything.
for that new building?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent, good question. Any other questions for our petitioner? We've satisfied all our questions. Is there anyone in our audience that wishes to speak for or against this petition? We certainly know there's many people in the audience, I'm sure, who support it. So we appreciate you being here. If there is someone who wishes to speak for or against, you're welcome to come forward to one of our podiums. We'll give you an opportunity to speak. Again, we'll just ask that you say your name and address for our record.
My name is Ed Gonzalez. I live at 28618 Clarita. And I don't want to say if I'm for or against it, but I do have a couple questions.
Certainly.
One is about the retention basin. I know there's not one there now, and I'm worried about a mosquito problem. Is that going to be flowing water or stagnant water? How does that work?
Well, we'll let the petitioner address your questions after you ask them. I
Okay.
don't want to do it back and forth, but
Okay.
but what we do know about the retention pond is that it's designed as the forebay is going to have some water in it, but the main pond will be empty from what I understand. But we'll have them address that.
Okay, and the second question is, I believe this description said there will be trees planted on the west side of the retention basin, and I'm wondering about the south side.
Yes, there's existing trees on the east and south side. And they're going to add some trees on the west side because that side currently doesn't have them.
Well, there is a tree line there, but I would like to see more trees for a buffer.
Okay. All right, let's, is there anything else that you'd like to
That's it.
ask? All right, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Anyone else in our audience wishing to speak? feel free to come forward. Once we get our questions done, we'll answer Mr. Gonzalez's. Good evening, sir.
How you doing?
Good.
My name's Anthony Coppola at 28594 Clarita Street. That is my neighbor, and also Raphael. We're just three houses in a row, south side there.
Okay.
First, I want to congratulate you on this project. I've been there for about 20 years, and it's been nice to see the evolution of that property. It was really bad before, and it just keeps getting better. So I'm actually really looking forward to this. The building's beautiful. Just obvious questions, again, the trees. The current trees that are there, are you gonna be knocking any of them down, or are they just?
Not on that side.
Beautiful, yeah, very good. That's the obvious question. We like to look at trees and not so much parking lots, yeah, so. Other than that, just I wish you guys the very best in your project. It's very exciting.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Coppola. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item, either for or against? I don't see anyone else wishing to speak. Mr. Abdenor, is there anything that you would like to address in regards to the retention pond and how it's designed?
I'm gonna ask Alan from Nowak and Frost to answer that question.
Yeah, he's the expert.
He's the engineer, so.
Go ahead, sir.
Alan Izember, Nowak and Frost Engineers. So regarding the detention, we will follow the Wayne County standard for detention. They require the 2-foot permanent pool in the forebay. That's to allow for sediment to settle out and then maintain the system. So if you have that water coming in and that sediment's just sitting in the bottom of the pond, that pond starts to fill up, which then makes it less useful. So we will have that 2-foot permanent pool. Regarding the tree situation, we've kind of worked that detention pond in around the existing trees as much as possible. We did look at actually pushing that parking lot further south and pushing that whole pond south, but we wanted to keep as many trees as we could along the south side there.
For privacy, so to keep it like.
Yeah, it's pretty significant landscaping around there that you're showing. And on the west side of the retention pond, you are going to be adding trees where you may have to remove some due to the construction of the pond?
Correct. Yeah, I don't think there's a plan to remove anything along that west side. We were pretty well within the limits as far as size goes.
Okay. And how do you deal with mosquito management as part of these ponds?
It's a great question.
It
And
is.
I'm not sure I can answer that, to be honest with you. It's an ongoing kind of back and forth with the county. There is a lot of concern over mosquito management, but generally the trees and the shielding and the screening help to mitigate that a little bit.
Okay, and I know from my own, where I live, where we have multiple ponds, we use a company that puts mosquito dunks in the water periodically to.
There is an option for that, yes.
Okay, all right, something to think about. All right, I think that addresses those questions that we got from our residents, so I appreciate that, thank you.
Thank you.
And is there anything else that the petitioner would like to say before we make our decision?
We just say thank you, and we thank Mark for all the hard effort he has been working with us through the process, going back and forth, but we're just looking forward to start building, so. that's really-
We appreciate your presentation tonight, and if there's no other questions from any of our commissioners, I'll just go one more time. No other questions? I think I can safely close the public hearing, and a motion would be in order.
I'd like to make a motion, offer approving resolution.
Go ahead, Ms. DeNaro.
The request to develop a new religious building at 28875 7 Mile Road is hereby approved, subject to city council approval and the following conditions. 1, the plan set and site plan documents for the Sri Shridi Sai Baba Temple consisting of civil landscape, lighting, photometric, and architectural drawings prepared by GAV and Associates Incorporated and NF Engineers dated January 2nd, 2024 are hereby approved, provided that A, masonry or other durable materials such as stone, metal, or composite siding are added to the exterior walls of the building, replacing most of the EIFS. B, adjustments to the lighting plan are made such that the average illumination level for the parking areas does not exceed 1-foot candle is required under section 7.22 of the zoning ordinance. C, access to the Maplewood Street shall be restricted for emergency use only through a gate or either a Knox box or chain and lock that shall be kept closed at all times, subject to review and approval of the fire marshal. D, the petitioner shall work with the planning department to reduce the amount of parking by land banking spaces, which, if deemed necessary to meet future demand at the temple, may be built subject to administrative approvals by the planning, inspection, and engineering departments. E, the existing temple shall be removed from the site within 2 years following the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the new temple. 2, all regular parking spaces shall be appropriately sized, measuring 10 feet in width and marked, including any barrier-free spaces as required by the state of Michigan. 3, all disturbed lawn areas, including road right-of-ways, shall be sodded instead of hydro seeding. 4, underground sprinklers shall be provided for all landscaped and sodded areas. All planted materials shall be installed to the satisfaction of the inspection department and, after that, permanently maintained in healthy condition. 5, the limits of tree clearing shall be surveyed and staked, and any existing trees outside of the clearing limits along the property's east and south sides shall be protected during construction with 4-foot-high snow fencing. 6, the height of all pole-mounted light fixtures shall not exceed 20 feet and shall be aimed and shielded to minimize stray light trespassing across property lines and glaring into adjacent roadways. 7, the dome lighting shall either be dimmed or turned off after 10 p.m. 8, the 3 walls of the trash dumpsters shall be constructed from materials that complement the building. The enclosure gates shall be solid steel or durable, long-lasting panel fiberglass. 9, only conforming signage is approved with this petition, and any additional signage shall be separately submitted for review and approval by the Zoning Board of Appeals. 10, no LED light band or exposed neon shall be permitted on the site, including but not limited to the building or around the windows. 11, under section 13.13 of the Livonia zoning ordinance as amended, this approval is valid for 1 year only from the date of approval by the city council. Unless the building permit is obtained, this approval shall be null and void at the expiration of said period.
Is there support?
Support.
All right, we have a motion to approve made by Ms. DeNaro, supported by Mr. Bonjero. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Tormino.
Just to address the concern regarding demolition of the existing building and its condition 1E of the approving resolution. So any C of O is going to trigger that clock, or that shot clock, so to speak, and require that the existing building be removed within 2 years of that period. So if they take occupancy of the main level of the structure, then that's when we begin that 2-year time frame. If they need additional time, then I think what would be appropriate is to come back before this body or the city council and seek an extension of that, of maintaining that structure. Does that make sense? And we'll clarify that with the resolution by stating that it's a certificate of occupancy for any portion of the structure.
Okay, and then it can be extended by the planning commission at a future date if needed.
Correct.
Okay. Sounds like
Yeah, that's good with me.
the maker and supporter are okay with that?
Yep.
All right.
Actually, I have one
Go ahead.
suggestion.
Go
Is
ahead.
it possible to get 5 years instead of 2 years? Because we don't know when you're going to finish the basement.
Well,
We want to finish it as soon as possible, and at that point, it all depends upon our financial strength and all that. And if it gets delayed, of course, we don't want to go beyond 5 years, but
Is that 5 years from C of O?
instead of 2, yeah.
About 3,
Because we don't want to get stuck on 2 years,
about 3, and
That
they
seems
come back.
excessive. Yeah, 5 years from C of O, is that what you're asking?
Yes, 5 years from on the top floor.
No, I think we keep it at 2 years, and then they can come back for an extension if need be.
Okay.
So what's being proposed currently by the commission's recommendation is 2 years. That could be extended beyond that for you to come back and extend that if necessary. And again, this is a recommendation that we make to city council. You can also discuss this with the city council when it gets to that level as well. So I think the maker and the supporter are both okay with the petition as presented. Okay. And is there any other discussion on the motion? If not, if our secretary is ready, please call the roll. This is an approving recommendation.
Mrs. DeNaro.
Aye.
Mr. Bonjero. Aye. Mr. Long.
Aye.
Caremagna votes aye. Chairman Wilshaw.
Votes aye, motion passes. We'll go to city council with an approving recommendation, and we wish you the best of luck with your project.
So Mark, do we have to resubmit for the city council, or, so we keep going?
Yep, you're all set. Thank you. Certainly. Thank you.
It means loyalty in Arabic.
Very good.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. That's pretty good, Mr. Tissio. We'll give the folks a minute just to clear the room a little bit, and then we'll get moving on to item 2. Hopefully, everyone else can leave just as happy as these folks. All right, I think we're ready for item number 2, Mr. Secretary.
Petition 2024-01-02-02, submitted by Tissio Architects on behalf of United Landscaping, requesting waiver use approval under sections 3.16 and 6.58 of the Livonia, City of Livonia zoning ordinance as amended to construct and operate a special trade contractor's yard that includes the outdoor storage of landscaping equipment and materials at 12933 Farmington Road in the northeast quarter of Section 28.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Tormino.
Thank you. United Landscape is located on the west side of Farmington Road. It's approximately midway between the CSX Railroad right-of-way and Schoolcraft Road. The site includes the property at 12933 Farmington Road, which is about 1.9 acres in size, as well as the rear portion of the adjacent parcel to the south, 12911 Farmington Road, which adds another 0.48 acres. Both properties contain industrial buildings. They're zoned M1, light manufacturing. The site overall has 100 feet of road frontage on Farmington and an average depth of 850 feet. United Landscape leases the site at 12933 Farmington Road, including the building. On the adjacent parcel to the south, 12911 Farmington, the company leases only the rear 200 feet for outside storage. The building is used for offices and other administrative functions, as well as storage and warehousing and maintenance. The rear yards contain various outside storage areas. There's an existing concrete pad at the rear of the main property at 12933 Farmington that has 4 bins. 1 is used for trash, 1 for topsoil, and 2 for mulch. Adjacent to the bins is a covered salt dome. Both properties are also used for truck and trailer storage. In addition, there are 23 parking spaces available for employees. This includes 11 in the front yard, as well as another 12 in the rear yard. There's a trash enclosure currently unenclosed behind the building. The plans show that this will be enclosed with masonry block walls, 7 feet 4 inches in height. There would be a composite wood gate. Additionally, there are 2 30-yard dumpsters that are located along the north side of the property adjacent to the trash bins. Currently, the only fencing on the site is along the south and west boundary lines of 12911 Farmington Road. The north and east boundaries of the outside storage area are unenclosed. Section 9.10 requires that all parking areas be hard surfaced unless waived by City Council. Portions of the yard are paved, while other areas contain loose asphalt millings. At the study meeting, the commission asked that the following items be addressed as part of the approving resolution. 1, that fencing be added around the perimeter of the storage yard. 2, maintenance of the ground surface where the asphalt millings have been used. And then 3, permits for the salt dome. With that, Mr. Chairman, I can read out the correspondence on this item.
Yes, please.
First is from our engineering division that reads, and this is dated January 21st. The subject parcel is assigned the address range of 12933 through 12943 Farmington Road, with the address of 12933 Farmington Road being assigned to the overall parcel. It should be noted that a portion of the proposed lease area for contractor equipment is actually located on the parcel at 12911 Farmington Road. 3, the existing parcel is currently serviced by public sanitary sewer and water main as well as private storm sewer. The submitted drawings do not show any changes to the existing services to the building, so we do not believe that there will be any negative impacts to the system with the proposed usages. Number 4, the submitted drawing indicates that the storage area will remain gravel. Should any additional paving be installed, the owner will need to provide stormwater detention per the Wayne County Stormwater Ordinance. 5, should revisions to the on-site services be required, the owner will need to submit engineering drawings to this department to determine if permits will be required. That letter is signed by David Lear, Assistant City Engineer. Next, we have a letter from the Department of Public Safety, Livonia Fire and Rescue, that reads, "We have no objections to this proposal with the following stipulations. Due to the amount of combustible fuel potential with the vehicle stored on this yard, general housekeeping is required in maintaining a clear path of travel for emergency vehicles in the event suppression efforts are needed. A further detailed plan review will take place when this division receives an official plan set." And that letter is signed by Brian Kukla, Fire Marshal. Next is a letter dated January 23rd from the Police Division indicating that they have no objections to the proposal. That letter is signed by Paul Walters, Sergeant of the Traffic Bureau. Next is a letter from the Inspection Department dated February 6th that reads, "Pursuant to your request, the above referenced petition has been reviewed and the following is noted. The parking lot shall be repaired and replaced as necessary. All parking areas shall be hard surfaced and approved drainage shall be provided." And next is a letter from the Department of Finance dated February 1st that reads, "I have reviewed the address connected with the above noted petition, as there are no outstanding amounts receivable, general or water and sewer. I have no objections to this proposal." And that letter is signed by Connie Cumpula, Chief Accountant. And lastly, we have an email correspondence from the Treasurer, Susan Nash, indicating that taxes are current. That's it. Taxes are current.
All right,
That
thank
is the
you.
extent. Thank you.
Excellent. Is there any questions for our planning staff? Seeing no questions, our petitioner is here. Good evening, Mr. Tissio.
Buonasera, come stai?
Buonasera.
Thank you again. I'd like to give you one update, if we could. At your recommendation at the last hearing, it was requested that we apply for the permit for the dome. Mr. Lynch, who's here today, we tried today, but evidently the person that takes those petitions has been off all week. So we'll be back here on Tuesday morning. I guess Monday's a holiday. And hopefully at that time, they will accept the money and the drawings for the dome. I talked to the building official, and we're all set with that permit. So he didn't see any objection to it. It's just we do have to go through the process. So I'm hoping that by the time we get to the city council, that permit will be in hand. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Tissio. Is there any questions for our petitioner? Mr. Bonjero, I think your thunder was stolen by Mr. Tissio.
Preemptive.
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Ben, did you guys, what kind of fence are you gonna put up? You gonna go?
It'd be the same chain link fence that you find on the south and the west end.
Is that acceptable, Mark?
Yeah, it has to be approved by the inspection department, so they make the final call, but I'm guessing that chain link will be more than acceptable.
Sufficient, okay, thank you. That's it. Thanks.
All right, great, thank you. Any other questions for our petitioner? There is no one left in the audience to speak for or against this item. I must have scared them all.
I scared him away.
All right, well, is there anything else that you'd like to say before we make our decision?
I don't know, Mr. Lynch, if you wanted to say anything, or?
Thank you for taking the time to review this, and we'll follow the recommendations that were made and make sure we got that taken care of. And again, I apologize that we weren't able to get the permit for the salt dome, but Ms. Karen Thompson apparently was off this week, and they didn't know where to put the money in order to accept the application today, so.
I could have taken the money, but you wouldn't let me take
I told him put it in the donut fund as long as they give us credit, but
Well, at least you got the wheels in motion. That's what's
Thank you.
important. So
Thank
that's
you.
great. All right, thank you, Mr. Lynch. All right, if there's no other discussion, I'll close the public hearing and a motion will be in order.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Bonjero.
I'd like to make an approving resolution.
No.
Request to operate a special trade contractor's yard at 12933 and 12911 Farmington Road is hereby approved, subject to city council approval and the following conditions. One, the site plan identified as sheet number P1 dated January 11, 2024, prepared by Tissue Architects, Inc., is hereby approved and shall be adhered to. Two, all outside storage shall be restricted to the areas located behind the building as shown on the approved site plan. Storage within this area shall be limited to vehicles and landscape-related materials. Any changes in the location and extent of outdoor storage shall first be approved by the Planning Commission. Number three, as part of its, regular biannual inspections of the properties, the inspection department shall review the condition of the ground surface and salt dome to determine if any improvements are necessary. The perimeter of the storage shall be fully enclosed with a fence approved by the inspection department pursuant to section 6.583A. Number five, there shall be no outdoor storage of junk, tires, debris, hazardous chemicals, or disabled/inoperative equipment and vehicles anywhere on the premises. Number six, that only, that only conforming signage is approved with this petition, and any additional signage shall be separately submitted for review and approval by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Number seven, that the specific plan referenced in this approving resolution shall be submitted to the inspection department at the time the building permits are applied for. And do you want me to read this other condition, Mark, that you said?
Yeah, if you could.
Okay, it'd be number 8. The petitioner shall do one of the following to bring the salt dome into compliance with the building code. And that's number 1, apply to the Building Code Board of Appeals for a variance to maintain the structure, or 2, apply to the inspection department for a temporary structure permit, which would allow the salt dome for a maximum of 6 months. And lastly, pursuant to section 13.13 of the Livonia zoning ordinance, this approval is valid for a period of 1 year only from the date of approval by city council, and unless a building permit is obtained, this approval shall be null and void at the expiration of said period.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
All right, we have motion by Mr. Bonjero, supported by Mr. Long to approve. Is there any discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, if the secretary is ready, please call the roll.
Mr. Bonjero.
Aye.
Mr. Long.
Aye.
Mrs. DeNaro.
Aye.
Mayor Magno votes aye. Chairman Wilshaw.
Votes aye, motion passes, and we'll go to city council with an approving recommendation. Thank you. Have a good evening. Good luck with your project there. Take a little less construction time than the last one, I think. A long project.
Good night.
All right, and that leaves us with one item left on our agenda, Mr. Secretary.
That is the approval of the minutes of the 1,208th public hearing and regular meeting held by the Planning Commission on January 16th, 2024.
All members were present at that meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I heard Ms. DeNaro first. Yep. With Mr. Long supporting.
Supporting.
All right. And if there's no objection, I think we can safely show 5 to approve that. I don't see any objections, so we'll show 5 on that. That takes us to the end of our meeting. Is there any other business to come before the Planning Commission? If not, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So, we get too many pauses. So moved.
Made by Mr. Long, supported by
I'll support it.
Mr. Bonjero. That is a motion to adjourn. Again, if there's no objections, I think we can safely show 5 on that motion.
Yep.
No objections noted, so we will do that. That takes us to the end of our meeting. I would like to thank Livonia Television staff for bringing this meeting to our community tonight. And with no further business, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:04 p.m. and wish a good night to the city of Livonia.